Who was Anna, another Latina soldier found dead at Fort Hood amid sexual harassment questions? Anna was a soldier based in Fort Hood, Texas, and she died. She was found dead. And the military base is saying that there was no foul play initially suspected. They were trying to say that it was a suicide, essentially. Which, honestly, are we surprised? That's literally what they do every time. But she reportedly told her family of harassment before she died, which is a very common theme when it comes to women who die at Fort Hood, because she's not the only one who this has happened to. There was also Vanessa Guillen, who died at the Fort Hood military base as well. And if it wasn't for her family's advocacy, it's not like anyone at the military base or the American military was trying to advocate for her justice. You know what I mean? On Monday, March 13, 20-year-old Private Anna Basaldua Ruiz, oh my God, I'm sorry, chat, was found dead at Fort Hood, the massive army base in central Texas, and it's a situation that is eerily similar to the one that played out 2 years ago, when then Private Vanessa Guillen went missing for almost 2 months between April and June 2022. Guillen's partial remains were found along the nearby Leon River by contractors working on a fence on June 20th, 2020. Like Ruiz, she was also 20 years old and had family that she told before going missing that she was being sexually harassed by an unnamed sergeant at the base and could do nothing about stopping the treatment of her getting sexually assaulted. This is a common theme for women at the Fort Hood military base. It's a common theme. And it's not just the Fort Hood military base, it's most military bases, right? Like, this theme of women getting sexually assaulted is pretty freaking common. And so the military not really being active about responding to that is also very common. There's multiple accounts of women getting sexually harassed and, American military kind of putting it under the rug. That's what they do. When Ruiz did not go missing, it has been reported by both of her friends and her mother, who spoke to Noticias Telemundo, that she did tell them of being sexually harassed before her death. Despite the reports, officials at Fort Hood have said there's no foul play suspected in Ruiz's death, but the Army Department of Criminal Investigation, CID, said in a release statement that it would conduct a thorough investigation and gather all evidence and facts to ensure they discovered exactly what transpired. Okay, let's be real. Do you think the American military really did this? I would bet money that they did not. Okay, information related to any possible harassment will be addressed and investigated fully, the statement continued. Outside of the Army organizations, the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, and the American GI Forum have called for independent investigations into Ruiz's death. So yeah, independent investigations have to happen in this situation, right? Because we don't trust the American military establishment to do the proper investigations, especially with a woman who is clearly an immigrant, who is clearly a brown woman, and who is 20. Right? Her mother is literally in Mexico and her father is in America, but his first language is not English. So yeah, you're going to have to do a independent investigation, period. Just to even begin with, that's what you need to do. LULAC's Domingo Garcia also drew the comparison to Guillen's case, which the organization also organized heavily around. The comments the mother made were eerily similar to Vanessa Guillen's mother's comments. That's so sad. Per NBC reports, Ruiz spent some years when she was growing up in a small community of Tacambaro in, oh God, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. I will butcher that if I try to pronounce it, with her mother's family. Beyond the time spent in Mexico, NBC News reported that Ruiz was, quote, a reader from age 5 who loved to dance and loved music a lot. Her favorite books were any Brazilian writer Paulo Coelho. Oh, I love Paulo Coelho. Do you guys know who Paulo Coelho is? He wrote the books The Alchemist, 7 Minutes in Heaven, Adultery. He wrote some really great books. I've actually read every single book that Paulo Coelho has written. He's my favorite author. Her journey to the military was a positive one. Ruiz looking forward to the structure it would provide and the opportunity to travel the world. Okay, this is propaganda. I'm sorry, this is propaganda. The whole traveling the world. Like, yeah, you'll be able to travel the world. It's just, there's going to be a lot of trauma associated with that. So, upon the news of her death, Ruiz's mother, Alejandra, was reported to have received a 3-month humanitarian visa to enter the U.S. from Mexico and find answers about her daughter's fate. Oh, that's crazy. Her mother got a 3-month humanitarian visa. That's interesting. She told Telemundo that in her last conversations with her daughter, Ruiz told her that she didn't want to be at Fort Hood anymore. A GoFundMe has since been organized. A relative of Ruiz's funds to the funeral. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if... Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. In response to the news of Ruiz's death, the family of Guillen offered their support for her family as it goes through a similar process that they had to go through 3 years ago. While the pressure applied by Guillen's family got the attention of President Donald Trump, forced legislation to combat sexual harassment and abuse in the military and got 14 Fort Hood-based leaders removed. Wow, I did not know that Guillen's death made that much change. I had no idea that 14 Fort Hood-based leaders were removed. Ruiz's death shows that there's likely way more work to be done. We need to continue talking about this because her death is going to be pushed under the rug. And it's really sad because all these articles are from a month ago. Like, did the news media forget about her? These are all from March. We're in May right now. The most recent one is from a month ago. The general was supposed to leave and take command else. Yeah, so what the hell is the point if you're gonna make somebody leave and then just have them work in another area? That's trash. I hate it when they do that. They do the same thing with police too. Like police that have bad conduct. They do that same exact thing where they're like, oh, you know what? We're just gonna place you in a different department. Like that doesn't change, that doesn't fix the actual issue at hand where the person is a POS. No foul play suspected in death of Fort Hood soldier. Yeah, Army says, of course. Of course, the Army says that. Military investigators at Fort Hood said that there was no foul play in the death of Ruiz, who was stationed at Texas Army Post as her family raises accusations that she was being sexually harassed. Something definitely happened to this girl. Something definitely happened to this girl. Army officials said that Ruiz died by suicide. Of course. Of course they said she committed suicide. That's like the easiest scapegoat for the military to use. That is so annoying. They didn't even do an investigation and they're already saying that it was a suicide. Like, are you serious? You didn't even properly investigate. You literally, you know why? Because if they just say that it's a suicide, then they don't have to take any of the proper documentation that they have to take if it was like as opposed to a homicide. They don't have to investigate it thoroughly. They just say, oh, it was a suicide, and that's it. She just becomes another number. The Army would not confirm Ruiz's cause of death to CNN, but said in the statement that any possible harassment will be addressed and investigated fully. Why are you lying? In a news conference Friday evening, Fort Hood Commander Lieutenant General Sean Burnaby said the Criminal Investigation Division, which is independent of Fort Hood's chain of command, is not ruling anything out and will investigate the circumstances leading up to Anna's death fully and completely. Lies. It's been a month. There hasn't been any update in a whole entire month. And mind you, this is happening 3 years after Guillen's death. So it's like, did you guys learn anything? Did you guys learn anything at Fort Hood? Honestly, if I was a woman at Fort Hood, I would put an air tag in my uniform. I would put an Apple AirTag in my uniform. I would document anything that happened. Like, I would be scared for my life if I went to Fort Hood as a woman, straight up. This is like a den. It's like a trap for young women. I know I get like 30 views on each YouTube video, but you know, it's still worth talking about because her life is important. She's important. Her life was important. Second Fort Hood soldier died the same day as Anna. What? What the hell? 2 women stationed at Fort Hood died on March 13, but only one of the soldiers' deaths was initially disclosed by the United States Army. Oh my God. While the Army announced the death of Ruiz, it did not disclose the apparent suicide of Katerina Wikel, despite occurring the same day, the day after Wiekel's birthday, according to a report by military.com. Here's what you need to know. I am stumped right now. Lieutenant General Sean Barnaby held a press conference on March 17 where he addressed Ruiz's death, but Wiekel was not mentioned by name or any other description during the event or in a corresponding news release. The statement given to military.com, the Army said it was not required to disclose Weekel's death because it did not happen on base, and that information could not be shared as both deaths are under investigation. A former judge and current attorney, Sean Timmons, told the publication that a second suicide on the same day may not have triggered any red flags because of how common such deaths are among base personnel. Wait, 2 suicides in one day is so normal that they don't even raise that as a red flag? Before Weekel's death was revealed this week, Fort Hood received a request from Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Chuck Grassley, Senator Kristen Gillibrand, and Senator Mazi Hironi last week for a thorough investigation in Ruiz's death. The body of the missing Texas woman was found and dumped in Mexico with severe trauma. How is this not on every single headline? How is a woman, an American soldier woman's body being found dumped in Mexico with severe trauma, not on every single news headline? How is this happening? Was found dead in apparent suicide after telling her family about sexual assault. So that's Ruiz's. And then Guillen, same thing happened 3 years ago. Yet a second soldier also died by apparent suicide that same day. And base officials, already bracing for a firestorm surrounding the circumstances of Ruiz's death, did not disclose the additional fatality. She died on her 29th birthday. Weekel's death was initially reported as a suicide off base, but circumstances of the incident are still being investigated. I'm like dumbfounded right now. I do news for a living. I talk about news every single day for a living. And I did not even know about Weekel's death. This is so insane to me. Multiple anonymous officials at the base told military.com that the investigation's fallout resulted in a virtual lockdown on information relating to the incidents. A spokesperson said it is case by case whether Fort Hood discloses the death of a soldier assigned to the base. The spokesperson Donovan said that because Weekel's death was off base, there was a joint investigation between Army's Criminal Investigation Division and the police from Killeen, the city outside of the base. No Army policy prohibits the service from commenting on deaths outside of the military property. Yeah, but she was found in Mexico. I feel like there's so many things that's just not being told about this story, and it's really bugging me. It's seriously bugging me. I mean, this is weird as hell. This is really weird. It's like the plot of a scary doomsday movie. I don't know how else to explain it. And it's like every single article you click on, it just says the same exact thing. It's like they basically all just copy pasted each other on these articles. Like it's nothing. All it says is that she was off base when she died. She just mysteriously apparently committed suicide, both on the same night. Her body was found in Mexico, all beaten up. Okay, so the reason why I really don't want to say that Vanessa committed suicide is because she was disclosing that she was being sexually harassed for months prior to her suicide. And the Army was just trying to say that she committed suicide right when they found her dead without even investigating it, which also irritated the hell out of me. I do think that suicide amongst military people is obviously high, but in this specific case with Vanessa and Weekel, it's just something's just not adding up. They literally committed suicide the same night. Her body was found beaten up and dumped in Mexico. I mean, how do you beat yourself up and then take yourself over the border to Mexico just to commit suicide? It's literally not making sense. And maybe I don't know the full story, obviously, because I'm just going off, I don't know, Hollywood Unlocked articles. But it's just like, it's not adding up. 2 + 2 = 5. Like, it's literally not adding up. And that's the same thing with Vanessa. They literally found her body chopped up, and they were trying to say that she committed suicide. Vanessa's body was found in pieces, and they were trying to claim that she committed suicide. If it wasn't for her family constantly advocating for her full time and her justice, they would have written that one off as a suicide as well. But Vanessa's sisters speak fluent English. You know, they could maneuver the system in sorts of ways. You know what I mean?
Also, Army, kinda sus they all female. Let's assume that all 3 were suicide. Doesn't that mean there are conditions or people at that base that are driving these women to do that? Like there is def a problem here.
I mean, I think at the very least, it's fair to say there is something incredibly wrong with Fort Hood. Whether that's high suicide rates amongst women or there's something fundamentally, like, shut the whole base down at this point. Shut the whole entire base down. There's something wrong with this military base. I didn't even know about Weiko's death. Now I'm really creeped out by this whole situation. It's weird. It doesn't add up. It's weird. And no one's talking about it. Because the military is literally covering this up completely. Look, I mean, even though I told you, the only big, news outlet that covered this is Yahoo. And they just copy-pasted military.com. It's only 9 articles. Even though Katerina was found on the same day. And her body was dumped in Mexico. 9 articles. That's it. All of which from 3 weeks to 1 month ago.
Hey, remember when Tulsi Gabbard was acting progressive and said the military had a systemic problem with SA and then she suddenly stopped talking about it? Anyway, why are all these army women dying?
This is something that we're definitely going to continue to follow. This is incredibly disturbing, and we're going to continue following this. We'll just have to see, because I know for a damn fact the military is going to try to cover up Weiko's death. I just know that for a damn fact. I mean, the fact that you literally had a soldier's body beat up in Mexico, I don't understand why you're not covering that.